Hello, lovely people of the world. Welcome back to my channel. I hope that you are in the best of health, in the best of mindset, with the best motivation to get through this semester successfully. Now, in the previous video, I've showed you some test-wise strategies, and these are strategies that students use when they don't know the answers to the questions, and somehow there are clues in the questions that lead students to the correct answer. And in this video, we are going to look at guidelines in item writing. Now, item writing is not a painful experience, though it does present some challenges at the point of writing item, but the whole experience can be rewarding. And if you are new to item writing, without any first-hand experience to writing items before, don't worry. There are some considerations that you have to make, and there are also guidelines that you can refer to writing high quality and effective items. All right, so without further ado, let's get rocking. Okay, guys, so the slides which I'm using, as usual, is available on my MOOC page. So I'm going to leave a link to this page of mine where you can download the slides underneath the video. And before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe so that you are always the first to know every time I upload new video. Okay, so guide in writing effective items. In the first part of this video, we are going to focus on writing STEM. So how do you formulate effective STEM? So STEM is a very important part of a multiple choice questions. This is where the directions or the question is presented to the test takers. When students go through your item, particularly when it comes to multiple choice items, they will be going through your options a number of times. Options are long or crowded. It will make the process of reading difficult. So there are two aspects to this item then. The first one is that the stem does not have direction and as well as ineffective phrased options. So the beauty of item is that if you have slightly ineffective items, you can always improve them. So let's look at how this item is improved. So this is the improved version of the question. So if you were to note the differences, now the options are much simpler. Going through them multiple times will be not as tiring. And also the stem is now a bit longer, but it has directions. It's okay to have slightly long, not too long. But it is always important to make sure that when you are writing items, your items are clear, they are not ambiguous, and short as much as possible. Okay, another thing that you must remember is that try to avoid negative statement in your stem. I know that this is very common for you to have the words such as not in your stem. Sometimes you do have word like except in your stem as well. And it doesn't look like anything wrong with it. But I do encounter a number of items that have double negatives. For example, they have not in the stem and they also have negative statements in the options. Now that can be outright confusing. Hence, it is always better to not include the word not in your stem. Let's look at another example of the use of the word not. This one. Now, which of the following is not a mammal? In terms of being an item, your item has better value by not including the word not there. Just bear with me. Let us I don't know why I'm eating my mouth, my words this morning, but just bear with me. Right, so which of the following is not a mammal will be sounding much better if it is phrased, which of the following is a mammal? Now, if you have the word is there, then you know that you are assessing the knowledge in terms of knowing which of these options is a mammal. So if you cannot avoid the word not, it's fine. But please remember, if you can phrase it positively, then it gives better value to your item. Now, if you cannot avoid the use of not in your item, some experts in item writings agree that you can basically include the word not in your stamp, but please make sure that they are either bold, put in capital letters, or underlined to make sure that it is not missed by students when they read your stamp. Now, moving on. Right. Another important thing to remember is that make sure that your items measure relevant knowledge. Um, Remember that your test can only last for 1 hour, for example, and within 1 hour, you cannot afford to ask every single thing that you've taught in class. Hence, whichever items that make into your test, they must uh, be able to measure important significant aspects of learning from the particular topic. So let's look at this example. George Washington, A, B, C, D. Now, I know that sometimes you do want your test to look fun and appear interesting. But remember that every single item that you have in your test provides important data of learning or evidence of learning. And you want to measure significant learning as well from each item that you have. Hence, do not ask ridiculous things. Make sure that your item is carefully formulated and they do, in fact, measure significant knowledge. All right, so we are done with writing stamp. We are going to get into more detail once we get down and start cracking writing down items during our online lessons. But now let's get into another subtopic, which is writing options. Now, these are the guidelines that you might want to, well, that you have to follow through when you are writing down your options for your multiple choice items. All right, so avoid complex distractors. Now, this is interesting. Avoid all of the above and none of the above. Avoid having one odd one. Avoid having an odd one out. Keep the length of all your options similar and make the pattern of your keys sporadic. Okay, so let's get into each and one of these in detail. Right, that you need to avoid. Don't do this. Don't ever include such items in your test or items with complex distractors. And let's look at these items. I know that this is a very common item in your life. You've seen these items when you sit for your test like multiple times. And in fact, this is one of the favorite ways of asking questions for most teachers. But please know that this item is not effective. All right, so let's look at this item again. When listening, when listening for a speaker's evidence, you should keep blah blah blah. So this is a stem, and following the stem are selections. Here we have 4 selections. Sometimes you might be presented up to 5 selection, and then only comes the options. So this is not an effective item because students might get to the wrong answer, not because they don't know the answer, but because they were confused with the question. They might have read the options wrongly, hence giving you the wrong answer. So we don't want that to happen. So please, people, do not include these items ever in your test. Okay, so another thing that you must abide by is to not include, all of the above in your options when you are writing your multiple choice questions. Now, all of the above is also very common. I'm sure that you have experienced scoring or responding to items that have all of the above as the option. Now, it is not effective for 2 reasons. Okay, number one, when you are putting all of the above, and all of the above is in fact the key, there's always a danger of measuring partial knowledge. All right, so what exactly do I mean by partial knowledge? So let's look at this item. Your question. All right, so having preamble is also not an effective way to start your STEM, but we are going to get into this in more detail in our online lessons. All right, so these skills include, okay, remember, just say that I am a test taker and I'm trying to answer this question. So I'll go through the option one by one. A, organizing your thoughts logically. Well, that sounds correct. B, tailoring your message to audience. This also sounds correct. So I know already that the correct answer is now D, without having to go through C. So with all of the above as the correct answer for your multiple choice, students only need to locate two correct options. Where is my hand? Okay. Students only need to locate two correct options to know that the answer is all of the above. Hence, they don't even have to be bothered with the last option that they have there. So there's always a danger of you measuring partial knowledge. Another thing is that based on experience, and this has also been supported by research findings as well, when teachers and educators place all of the above as one of the options, it is because it is the correct answer. If they don't have all of the above, so of course it's not the correct answer. But the moment you have all of the above there, test takers, do take note. That is the correct answer. You don't even have to read the question. Just go straight and take D as your answer. Okay, so for the two main reasons, please do not write all of the above as part of your option. Okay, let's move on. Here is another interesting thing. You must avoid all of the above at all costs, and please avoid none of the above. I feel that it is okay to use none of the above. However, some disagree. To me personally, I don't think the use of none of the above is effective, and not even the word if possible. I'm just going to say affirmatively, do not ever have none of the above as options for any of your multiple choice items. Now, let's look at why. Okay, so let's read through this question. Which of the following is a city in Selangor? And you have four options here. A. Jerantut, B. Ipoh, C. Nilai, and D. None of the above. Well, the answer is clearly none of the above because none of the options here is a city in Selangor. But when you have none of the above as a correct answer or as your key, then what exactly is the knowledge that you are assessing? When you are using none of the above as a key in writing your options, you are not assessing anything, and this particular item is a complete waste of space of your test paper. So don't ever dare to put this in your item. Okay. Another guide in writing options is that please make sure that students cannot employ elimination strategy. So when you write your options, please make sure that all options appear as viable answer without giving clues for students to detect an odd one out. This can be achieved by making sure that these options are all in the same, are stated in the same manner. If one is positively stated, make sure that the rest of the options are also positively stated. If one is negatively stated, make sure that all options are also negatively stated. Try not to use technical language for the key. And if you have to use technical language, make sure that all the options have technical language as well, but make sure that this technical language can be understood by the students. So remember guys, avoid having an odd one out. Okay, it is also important to consider the task takers. Of course, at all point of item writing, you have to consider the other end. How will the task takers receive my questions? And you want your item to be as clear as clearly stated as possible so that they won't miss anything when they read through your question. Now let's look at this particular question. All right, so this is an actual item being tested out in a maths class. So when the teacher introduces this item in the test for the first time, she found that for this item in particular, 67 of the students answered this item correctly, which is D. However, 23% of the students gave the wrong answer, and they answered A. So this is because most of these students did not see the word 10th term and straight away giving a sequence to 23, which is 27. That one of the ways to identify ineffectiveness in your items by looking at the answers given by your high ability students. Now, if your high ability students fail to answer certain items correctly, so please look back at your questions. There might be something that is not well phrased with the question, or some parts of the questions that could have been formulated or developed in a more effective manner. So not. So when the students that you feel able to answer your questions correctly somehow fail to get to the right answer for your item, so this is an indicator that it could be something wrong with your item. So please revise and look back and identify and analyze ways for which you can improve this item. All right. So another thing is that if you are an experienced item writer, even if you are not an experienced item writer, please know that we can basically maximize the use of multiple choice format to our advantage by making sure that every option that you have provides information, significant information about the thinking process of your learners. Let's look at this item. This is an example of an item for a mathematics test. If you were to look at these options, each option in this item provides significant information about learners' thinking process when they were trying to answer this item. So you can also manipulate multiple choice in this way so that every items and every options provides relevant and important evidence of learning. Now let's look at this item. Mrs. Lang had a box of 12 ice creams. She gave a quarter of them to the children. So how many ice creams were left over? So you know that the correct answer is D, 9. And those who answered 9 have no problem with the item, and they have basically acquired the relevant mathematical skills to get to the right answer. And you also know that for students who answered E, now these are the students which require intervention after the test, particularly in light of this topic, because obviously these are students yang hanya menembak, and this is only their guess. They did not even calculate or know how to calculate. Now, those who answer A and B may not have any issues with the acquisition of learning made in light of this topic. However, they might be confused when they were calculating or performing the operation. Now, these are also the students who require a slight intervention, maybe just go through a couple of exercises for a number of items for your exercises, and just remind them to read the questions carefully next time. Now, C, basically those who answer C are also those who do not know the answer. So you know that from the responses for this item, D is a lot of your student who has acquired the knowledge. A and B require slight reminder to read the questions carefully next time in other tests. C and E are the students who require intervention, maybe more exercises on the topic. Now, if your options are carefully formulated, they can be a powerful source of information with regard to evidence of learning from an individual student. All right, so now we are done with writing items. Remember, there's a lot more considerations, the ones that I've just shared in this video or the general ones. We are going to get into more specific when we get into our online lessons this week and next week. About multiple choice question is the concept of partial credit. Now, partial credit is not exactly new. But it's not something that a lot of teachers in Malaysia are familiar with. Let's look at this item. Which of the following is the capital city of Australia? So we have four options there. We have Brisbane, Canberra, Sydney, and Wellington. So what exactly? Which one is the key? Can you let me know? Is it C, Sydney? No, the answer is B, Canberra. Okay, so let us say, for example, that we want to turn this item into a partial credit item. Say, for example, you are a geography teacher and you have taught your students about cities in Australia, and you want to include this item as part of your test items, as well as you would like to convert this item into a partial credit item. So what exactly is partial credit? Remember that when I said that multiple choice item has one fixed answer, and hence that is why it is an objective question. Well, it is not exactly true. With multiple choice format, it is possible for a multiple choice question to have more than one have all of the options as correct answers. However, with partial credit, the options that you have, if they are correct, they must be representing different levels of accuracy, which means that you give scores to your students based on the extent to how accurate they are when they're responding to your questions. Okay, so in light of this particular question, so the correct answer is B. So that's the most accurate answer. Uh, Canberra is the capital city of Australia, so full mark is 1 mark. However, you want to give some credit to those students who may answer other cities in Australia, even though they are not the capital city. So those students who answered Brisbane and Sydney, you still want to give some scores because they are still able to identify cities in Australia. So you can, if you want to, assign half mark, so 0.5 to A and C. However, to those who answered Wellington, is not given any marks because this is not a city in Australia, but a city in New Zealand. Okay, so partial credit items allows teachers to assign different weightage of scores based on different degree of accuracy of responses provided by the students. There you go. All right, so let's look at another example of an item with a partial credit concept. Which of the following gives the best meaning of the word toxic? And you have four options there: dangerous, harmful, poisonous, and smelly. And even though there's one most correct answer, which is poisonous, you don't want to disregard students who answer A, dangerous, or B, harmful, because they are still partially correct. Hence, you give 2 marks for those who went for C, and 1 mark for A and B, and 0 mark for smelly because that is not a correct option. You should start applying more partial credit items for our multiple choice questions. Okay, so we have come to the end of the session. Thank you so much for bearing with me. And these are the key takeaways from this video. So, and also the last video. We have looked at various test-wise strategies, and the reason why we are trying to unearth the strategy menembak that students use in the test is because as teachers, you must create items which prevent students from employing these strategies. And second, We also have visited certain considerations and things that you must avoid when you are constructing your items, as well as we have looked at samples of 2 items with partial credit. All right. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in the next video as well as in the next lesson. And in the meantime, stay home, stay safe, and stay positive. Thank you, and goodbye.